what the hell is this? It's a fox at the Wailing Wall, the Kotel we call it. Now, the Wailing Wall is the last standing wall of the Jewish temple that was destroyed just under 2,000 years ago by the Romans. Now, it was also destroyed. This was the second temple. The first temple was destroyed a few hundred years before that by the Babylonians on exactly the same day. So it's a day of great mourning. So what's the significance of there being a fox there? Well, I'll read you what they say. As the Jewish world is mourning on the 9th of Tisha B'Av, this was on, what was it, week before last. It's like that big 25-hour fast I did. You do it every year. Well, what day was that? It was like Wednesday night, Thursday, right? You sit on the ground and cry, essentially remembering the destruction of the Jewish temple. So let's go. So this happens on that day. And again, this is the last standing remnant of it. It's the most holy place in the Jewish world. The day in which Jews mourned the destruction of two temples in Jerusalem following the destruction by the Romans. A fox has been spotted walking near the Western Wall on the night of Tisha B'Av. So what? This is actually a really big deal. I think for religious Jews, this is huge, right? This is unbelievably huge. It is written in the book of Eicha, which is the book of Lamentations that we read on that night. That we read that on Mount Zion, where the temple stood, which is right there. So it will be so desolate that foxes will walk upon it. So there's a famous story. I think into it. According to the Talmud, which is a early codification of Jewish law, it says that prophecies of destruction have been fulfilled. So the ones of the prophet Zechariah will be of the temple being rebuilt will also have validity. But like the big deal is this: the big story is that after the destruction of the Jewish temple, the great rabbis were looking down at it, being destroyed, right? And they were crying, they were weeping. This was the end of reality for them, right? Most people didn't think the temple could be destroyed. They just thought, no, God would never allow that to happen because all the Jews will be forced into exile, because the idea of there's so much of Judaism tied up in living in the land of Israel. They thought it's like having Jews without bagels, right? It's insane. Nobody believed it would actually happen, right? So the rabbis looking down at it, and they see a fox running through the Holy of Holies, right? Yeah, much like this. And they start to cry. But Rabbi Akiva, very, very great guy, Rabbi Akiva, who became a great rabbi much later in life, right? He was actually an ignoramus when he was a kid, when he was younger, and he wasn't able to learn. Didn't even know how to read when he was young, and he was a shepherd, I think, right? And he saw this rock, right, that had been worn down by water dripping on it. And so he decided with that, if that rock, this huge immovable rock, can be melted away by a simple drop of water, surely I can get something to melt into my head. So, and he did it. He forced himself to study again, and he ended up becoming one of the greatest sages. So this Rabbi Akiva, he laughs. He laughs when he sees the fox for this reason. He says, they're like, why are you laughing? This is like the worst thing ever. He says, no, because this was prophesied that the foxes will run in this holy place. And just like these prophecies came true, so will the prophecies of the redemption, the being rebuilt. So look, for me, take a drink, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, early in the show, end of days, right? I think this is a sign of the end of days. Now, the timetable I have, which could be, there's a million reasons why it could not be true. Firstly, Judaism might not be real, right? Let's not bury the lead, right? This is my own personal prejudice. Let's not bury the lead, right? That's number one. But secondly, even if it is, there's supposed to be like all this wars and chaos and misery and this what's the word I'm looking at? Degradation and desecration, which to me looks like the world we're looking at right before the Messianic age begins, right? And then it's supposed to happen. One of the ways for it to happen is the year after the sabbatical year, which is over in, was it September 15th or 16th, sometimes mid-September. So that's the timeline like that I'm thinking is the cutoff. I don't know. Listen, we may not have recorded the years correctly. We might not know what sabbatical years. God just may be dicking with us. I don't know. But this to me is another indication of the end of days, right? Of the end of days. And it seems to be the whole Trump indictment, I think, is playing into that, right? In my disease-fevered imagination. So here, let's have a look at that story, right? So I see the world changing, right? I see the world really, really moving and changing. So the first thing I saw with the world really moving and changing is this. Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan, I think, is the voice of the normie, right? To a great extent. I mean, not the normie, but he's got the biggest podcast in the world. And he seems to have like what the normie's point of view is. And the normie's point of view, I think, has massively altered, right? Specifically because this insanity we see, which is, America has become a third world junta, right? With no rule of law. Alan Dershowitz says that the Supreme Court will strike down any of these indictments against Trump. But anyway, so look, let's talk. This one is about this one is about him saying that the election was stolen. So let's just backtrack to that for one second, right? Remember this, right? This looks dodgy to me, right? This big jump, it looks dodgy to me. It looks like it's I've never seen an election look like this. I've never seen anybody adequately explain this. And there was a gazillion billion different bits of evidence of electoral weirdness going on, right? It really was. And they just screamed at you to shut up. And if you say anything, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a fascist, right? They just shut you up, right? They just shut up. And I think the reason they shut you up is because they couldn't, they just couldn't argue. So I think I think the general wisdom was, no, Trump lost. Don't be silly. He just lost, right? There was no electoral fraud. Well, I think I think the national consciousness is changing because let's look at this clip from Joe Rogan.
Which election fraud do you think is real?
Here we go, Joe. You want to go to election fraud?
Yeah, because I don't think it's zero.
No.
And the reason he doesn't think it's zero is because of the very, very obvious and clear, the corruption of the DOJ and of so many things.
It's not zero. I think we could all agree it's not zero.
No way it's not zero.
And we know that these voting machines can be fucked with.
Yeah.
And we know that there's some irregularities, all that Kerry Lake stuff in Arizona that they're trying to dismiss. It doesn't look like that's invalid. It looks.
It's interesting. My brother-in-law was just visiting. I think they came up for my son's engagement, and he's like normal liberal Jew from the West Coast, right? He's very anti-Trump, very, very pro-Biden. We didn't talk about politics, so we talked a little bit about climate change, right? A little bit, and he knew to stay away from it because look. The truth is we live in a bifurcated reality. He believes January 6th was an insurrection, right? I don't. I don't believe anything I'm told him. So I said, listen, you can get scientists will tell you anything. If scientists will say whatever the person paying them, wants them to say, right? And he said something interesting. He said, look, the truth is we have no attention span. We forget everything instantly. I was thinking to myself, well, you guys do because you have to have no attention span because if you did, you'll see that the world is fishy. The world is not as you believe it to be.
Looks like there's real fraud there. It looks like there's some real shenanigans there.
You see, and I think it's just getting too obvious for anybody to say it's not real.
At the very least, there was voting machines that weren't working properly, and it seems very suspicious that a lot of them were in Republican areas.
By the way, the reason they weren't working properly is because the ballots were printed out. They change the settings to shrink to fit, which means make them an inch smaller, which means nobody would notice by looking at it by their eye, but it means it wouldn't be sucked into the tabulators. And that can only be done on purpose.
There's a lot of shenanigans. And I think there's
a lot of shenanigans. That's the thing. There's a lot of shenanigans.
Coordinated efforts to make sure that certain people get elected. I don't know how far they go, but I know it's not zero.
So this was verboten to say 6 months ago. This was like insane conspiracies talk 6 months ago. And now it's like mainstream thought. So where else? NBC, CNN, even CNN are crumbling.
Is how solid a candidate is Joe Biden?
That's the problem. That's exactly the problem.
And
what is exactly the problem?
That we don't know how solid a candidate Joe Biden is.
We know
weak as water. If he was a solid candidate, he wouldn't be trying to put his rival in jail over nothing, over literally saying peacefully protest, right? Their thing is they say he knew he was lying. Trump knew he was lying when he told people that he thought the election was stolen. Nobody believes that. Everybody believes that Trump believes with every fiber of his being that the election was stolen. Like literally, that's what everybody believes. It's literally what everybody believes. And to believe anything, you get the Trump derangement people. They believe anything, right? And they believe anything from living in a fog of ignorance, right? And that's why they scream. They can't answer questions. They just can't do it. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, look, Biden's very weak.
He's not a solid candidate.
Exactly.
He is struggling. I mean,
within his own party.
It is hard to watch.
What's the thing I saw Trump say, which was funny on Truth? Well, did I grab that? Yeah, let me pull that up. Doink. Here it is. Share screen. I need one more indictment to ensure my election. I think he's probably right? I think he is probably correct there. He needs one more indictment to secure that election. But yeah, I think this is his lawyer really laying stuff out, I think, in quite a very clear way.
March 17th, Hunter accidentally admits that it was his laptop from hell.
By the way, how does Trump pick the hottest freaking lawyers ever? I'm sure she's great, right? My eyes went straight to her cleavage, right? Just boom, straight to her cleavage, because it's the way I'm hardwired, baby.
The next day, DA Alvin Bragg indicts President Trump.
Okay, so that just might be a coincidence. That might just be a coincidence. It's not, obvious. That just might be a coincidence.
June 8th, an FBI document is released showing that the Ukrainians paid the Biden crime family millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We haven't heard anything about that.
The next day, the Mar-a-Lago raid and the Mar-a-Lago indictment. Last week, Hunter Biden's sweetheart plea deal fell through when the judge realized it had blanket immunity.
And that was a miracle in of itself, I think. I really do.
The following day, a superseding indictment against Donald Trump. July 31st, Devin Archer goes to testify in front of the House. That was only after they failed to put him in jail prior to the fact. What happens the next day? The January 6th.
That was crazy as well, right? That was crazy. I'm going to show you that in a second. Yeah.
Indictment that we're here for today. This is not a coincidence. This is election interference at its finest against the leading candidate right now for president, for either party. President Trump
he is
under siege in a way that we have never seen before. President Trump and his legal team and everyone on his team will continue to fight, not for him, but for the American people.
Yeah, so that's. So I was just pulling up something else as that was playing. This happening every time something bad happens to Biden, The next day, Trump's indicted, right? Normally for the things that Biden did. I mean, and also, you could quite reasonably ask, why is Hillary Clinton not being indicted? She knew. I mean, again, their argument is that Trump knew that there was no election interference. Like Trump absolutely knew that, and that's right. Now Hillary Clinton knew there was no Russian collusion. We've had that like confirmed a billion times over, right? So why again? If you're saying that you are pushing forth knowledge of this, then she knew that, right? That's something we can ascertain that she actually knew that the whole Russian collusion thing was nonsense, right? But again, it's a two-tiered system adjustment. It's like this destruction of America on such a visceral level, right? It's really bizarre. And I have to tell you, the freaking Republicans are useless. They're absolutely who's the only person doing any good? It's this person, right? Not a politician. Somebody, your first-time politician who
guy.
Let's be clear. If Trump is knocked out, this guy is getting his support, right? This is Vivek Ramaswamy. He has got a really quite a direct path to becoming president of the United States right now, because if Trump is knocked out, this is the guy. They're trying to make it between DeSantis and Gavin Newsom, right? That's what like the deep state want, because that's something that's normal, they control. This guy is going to get the nomination, right? This guy's going to get Trump's support. I'll tell you exactly. You'll see it here. Why?
Sued the U.S. Department of Justice, and I further filed an additional FOIA request to understand what President Biden told Jack Smith, what Merrick Garland told Jack Smith. Because we want the truth. Today, I'm in front of the courthouse in Washington, D.C., where the 45th president of the United States, my competitor in this race, will be arraigned later.
Again, every freaking candidate should be there. Every freaking candidate should be there lined up, right? And it'll be the only say. And you know why? Even if you can't freaking stand Trump, right? This is just, you've got to stand against this clear, obvious corruption, right? Which is what it absolutely clearly is.
Today. But I think that the symbolic moment of today is something far deeper than just this case. We live in an era of the noble lie, the so-called lie that the government tells to its people because it believes the people can't handle the truth. Why is it that we see the rise of 3 different indictments, 3 supposedly independent prosecutions at the same time in the midst of a presidential election? It's because
independent, really. Yeah, I can't believe whenever the White House is asked, they're like, well, we have nothing to do with the DOJ. Darling, it's clear Merrick Garland is sucking Joe Biden's shriveled little cock.
The government does not trust the people to select their leaders. This is the old...
They don't. And look, by the government, that clearly means the CIA, the intelligence agencies.
Worldview rearing its ugly head again. We fought a revolution in this country in 1776 for a simple idea, that we, the people, determine how we select our leaders and have a government that is accountable to its people rather than the other way around. Yet today, we now live in a country where when the people question that government, they are themselves the subject of scrutiny. That is wrong.
Yeah, and again, like, where is the rest of the Republican Party? Why is this the only person speaking any sense?
I was in Nashville yesterday demanding the release of that transgender shooters manifesto. Tell the truth. Biden, Garland.
Yeah, memory holder. Just what my brother-in-law says. Oh, we forget. Who can remember?
Tell us the truth about what you actually told Jack Smith. And you go back over the last year, it's the same story all over again. Tell us the truth about the COVID origin. Tell us the truth about where the virus originated. Tell us the truth about what we know about vaccine mandates and mask mandates. Even in a recent hearing about UFOs in Congress, just tell us the truth.
Yeah, I don't believe that stuff at all.
Instead of repeatedly hiding from us the information that we need as a people. Turns out that trust is a two-way relationship. The reason that the people don't trust the government is that our government no longer trusts the people. So is this a
they never really did. It's just the people have started to notice now.
Politicized persecution through prosecution? I certainly believe it is. But it's the government's job to be transparent about exactly who told who what to bring about these prosecutions, because the fact they're arising at the same time is no accident. And I think it's best that the government now be transparent with the people about what their intentions actually are. Without that transparency, we can only expect far worse in the future.
Well, look, this is the prequel to Hunger Games. I mean, we really are in it right now. But again, I think this is the end of days. I think this is part of the end of days. I think this is a crumbling of reality. So we're going to look at a couple of clips from Joe Rogan again.
Is going to run against Trump in the Republican side and win.
I disagree. Again, Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, nobody can run against him with Trump's running. Vivek Ramaswamy can really do it. So this is his first bit he's talking
because
about.
You're not going to get needs to be a wall. Even the mayor of New York City, from a policy perspective.
This was forbidden to say 6 months ago.
Employment was down, all business there, and he's waving to people and they're going crazy. You're not beating that. There's and the fact that he was the president for 4 years and the country was in a great economic situation.
Yeah.
And it looked like his policies were actually effective and that it looked like the unemployment was down.
Nobody was allowed to say this, right? I say this to people. Again, my other relative who works as a lobbyist in Washington, right? He said, well, we all agree that Trump was bad for America. No, we don't all fucking agree that, mate. We don't. We all like money and world peace. That was way better than this bullshit.
Business was building. Regulations were being relaxed. More things were getting done. You know, when you look at it from a policy perspective, if you just look at it on paper, what he did was effective. A lot of people think it was effective. You don't like him as a personality, so you ignore that. Don't do that. Look at it in terms of a policy perspective. People liked the ideas that he was putting forward. And now you're saying like, oh, the wall is raised. Now the fucking everybody thinks there needs to be a wall. Even the mayor of New York City.
That's the thing that blows my mind. Like, again, Trump has a lot of failings. Don't get me wrong. I really think he has a lot of failings. I think he's been proved right about pretty much everything, which is bizarre. Like, all these investigations, they can't come up with anything solid. Right? Like, you would have thought he would be stooping hookers or porn stars or stuff. They can't come up with it. Say, even Stormy Daniels and him denied they slept with each other. I don't know what to tell you.
Is now calling to stop immigration into a city. And this was the guy that called for it to be a sanctuary state. When the reality of what your policies, what kind of actions you put forth, what the results of that are, and those results are highly negative. You're forced to sort of recollect your thoughts and come up with a new perspective. And that's what the mayor of New York City is doing right now. When you just look at what Trump's policies were, and then obviously COVID hits, there's a lot to which they know is not true. That's the fact that they suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story and that 51 intelligence agency representatives signed off on that to say that this was Russian disinformation, which they know is not true. That's
right. I mean, again, people like, look, you can go on forever, but I think, again, it's indicative of the world moving, the world changing. But the Trumpster doesn't seem to be that bothered, right? Doesn't seem to be that bothered. Check this out. He crashed a wedding, I think, at Mar-a-Lago.
It's a very sad day for America.
Yeah, this is him speaking about it.
And it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti.
Listen, this is all across America. It's decaying. It's falling apart.
It's not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him. We can't let this happen in America. Thank you very much.
Do you want these trials to happen before the 2024 election? All right, there you have the statement. Basically, sad day. He made a point of pointing out how filthy Washington, D.C.
I mean that I think that was just a great point. Here, one second. Let me just get this. There we get the clip I wanted there. That was the wrong one. But yeah, I love making the point about how DC is a disaster, right? Along with the rest of freaking America. It's like we all have eyes in our freaking head. But again, it's like my brother-in-law says, we just have no memories. Yeah, listen, you don't have memory because you don't want to be wrong. I mean, that's really the bottom line. What's driving most people not wanting to be wrong, right? This weird desperation not to be wrong. But as I said, the Trump himself seems to be doing okay. The first thing is supposed to be they want it fast tracked to August 28th, right? Which is like 2 weeks before the Jewish New Year, right? I don't know how all this plays out. But here, let me just put this up. Like, he seems reasonably popular still. But how's he get out of this? I don't know how he gets out. I really don't. I think he's gonna. USA! That must be the bride. USA! Must be the groom. USA!
I heard so much about this conference. The bride is totally beautiful, and you're even more beautiful than
Yeah, I even got a neighbor who, and by the way, when I posted pictures of my son's engagement, but a picture of my son's engagement party on Twitter, right, there's a guy in the background and said, looks just like Tony Bear. That's my neighbor, right, who's a very old school Republican. And he was talking about the sexual assault case, the rape case. He's like, well, he wasn't raped. What is this? I looked at him and said, it didn't happen at all, right? There was zero evidence of it happening whatsoever. And he's like, that just blew his mind. He was like, you mean it's all just made? I said, yes, it was just an episode from Law and Order, right? That's essentially what it is. My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.